Dear perceptive reader, this is a wisdom in the letter for you, okay? Um, it won't be in the next book that comes out, but it'll probably still be in one of them, this year. And what I want to share with you is this. Remember what I told you, the meaning of sage, what it really means, and the reason why I use that term? That it was to pay homage, you see, to everyone. And I mean, I gave a longer description of it. I guess I need to put that up there for you to listen to as well. Listen to me, all these videos that I've made over the years and articles that I told you, some of them are, or many of them are even in archive mode. Some of them have just been lost. But if you end up using the internet time machine, you'll probably be able to find a lot of writings on social media posts, a lot of comments, in-depth studies, and podcasts that I don't even have anymore. Do your research, you'll be able to find out the reasons why I don't even have everything that I've written about or talked about. But something that I want to share along the lines of homage to the sages and even the people who have come before us, even the ones who are up in years. Sometimes they may look at the situation and they'll know of tried and proven methods that use a lot of their intellectual abilities and their spiritual abilities to put together. What I really want to emphasize is this. Just because in this generation or this year that we're in, the present, it doesn't mean all the work, all the research, all the books, you see what I'm saying? Instruction manuals, etc. It doesn't mean any of that stuff is not applicable, you see, and it certainly doesn't mean any of that stuff is wrong. And that's what I really want to emphasize. The reason why things actually change at times is sometimes people say, yeah, it makes it more efficient. Yeah, because we end up what? Getting technology today that we just didn't have back then. That's one of the reasons. The other reason why the mode of operation has to change is because you can have a very good process in place. Yes, you can. And if everyone around you was in agreement with that process, honest with that process, then that process would be perfect. See what I'm talking about? I really want to emphasize. And that's what a lot of ways of the civilization that has been set up from the industrialized nations of the early 1900s or even 1800s, especially in the United States of America, now all the way down to this day. There are some people in their round tables, they feel like they have to just keep on changing. And even I've heard people use the term to be ready for AI or adjusting the AI. What I still say again is no, AI needs to adjust to us humans. AI need to adjust to us humans. I know I need to elaborate on that more. If you want to at least reference where I've talked about it with like Jack Ma and Elon Musk, if you want to reference that podcast or commentary that I made, you'll see my line of thinking. But again, in this paying of homage, I really want to make sure persons know, especially the ones who have gotten over 80, in my opinion, and I think it's not only in my opinion, but the facts go to show those persons were astute. And even though some may joke about, well, I don't remember what I used to remember, it still doesn't change the fact. It showed a capability of their mind and spirituality on a level that was certainly, again, more than helpful into the excellence areas. You see what I'm saying? During that era, during that time period. And the thing about it is, I would even go out on a limb and say a lot of it would still be even more so applicable even today. But the only reason why it had to be an adjustment is because, remember, I told you, when everyone is on the same sheet of music, yeah. But when you got situations today and the level of dishonesty, and here's a word that I want to tell you about that I learned years ago. See, and it came from one of the such minds. This person actually used the term, and they were talking about statescraft. Now, notice that word, state, and then you even have craft. And depending on the way or the intention that the person is using, it can be benevolent, you see, good, or it can be downright spiritistic, wicked, with the intention. And there was a Bible account that actually shows that in the book of Nehemiah, I believe, Nehemiah. That's where the person was really referencing and going into details. But see, this is what I want to still emphasize about that statecraft. See, it has been on this level, as I told you, you can look over the past 5 years, that certain persons who get into positions, it goes to show you like to think that I told you that they can always keep their own personal views and preferences under control without letting it, then affect how they want to treat the masses as a whole. But we come to find out that's just not true. And even in different occupations. So you really can have a person, let's say a person who is a doctor, and I'm just using this example, but it somewhat did happen where it did happen. Well, maybe I shouldn't use this example. Where hypothetically speaking, that imagine someone being in a type of field, and because you have a different belief system than them, then they just say, no, I'm not going to treat you. I'm not going to heal you. All because I don't like the way you think. So the statescraft that has been on this level of impeding progress. I mean, it's almost like again the adjustments. A lot of these men, as they got up in the age, they were having to make light speed decisions constantly, and they really couldn't even be in the situation, as I like to use that example of Moses, that it was dramatized, but in the movie, it still showed what type of character, what type of heart even the man Moses had. You see, when they made that movie, where he would stop the presses, so to speak, stop the press. Once the presses start running all these articles and stuff, for years, you didn't stop the presses. You better had a very excellent or good reason why you were. The story had to be that good. Well, the whole point is, you can see, it just wasn't some type of frivolous request or even an important request that could just stop the presses. It had to be just an outstanding story that it needed to be stopped for. Well, in the movie of Moses, the Ten Commandments, when they were building all those obelisks, boy, I just don't, those words don't roll off my tongue like they used to. See, so the whole point is, or the structures, the pyramids, the monuments, and things of that nature. Well, when they were building those, even back, in Egypt days, it showed those were situations where you didn't stop the presses, you didn't stop the building for anything. And so, sometimes people, they did die while those buildings were even being created. Let me tell you, they didn't have what we call OSHA back then, from what I understand. All you had was a bunch of taskmasters. So, hey, you had to really always be watching out for yourself, But anyway, when he stopped everything, because this one woman, not just a woman, but an elderly woman at that, elderly woman at that, was caught in between two other buildings that were closing up. And this one younger lady ran to go get Moses, to go to show how approachable he was. Yeah, it was a dire situation. And yet, in this case, the way that they showed, she ran directly to him because she knew he would be the only one probably that would give her the time of day of listening. And so he stopped the presses. He stopped the building, okay, in order to go and save that woman. And he made some type of reference to one of the taskmasters, the architect taskmasters, who was upset about the stopping of everything. And I don't know what he called him, a taskmaster or butcher or what have you. It was something along those lines. But he was basically saying, you know, in other words, you would hear it in business today, we don't do business that way. We don't function in that way. And see, in this case, it was very noble and honorable. So I know I'm making my own Moses movie. I'm making an expression here. But the whole point of what I'm sharing today is not everybody in these high positions are able to even do it. They don't even have the time to do it. And they still rely very heavily upon the immediate secretaries under them. See, depending on how up they are, you know, some persons, and I use the term secretary in the most highest regard. I'll show you that. They got many other different names, administrative assistants. But it's something about that word secretary that to me, it still just has a very, it's an occupation with affection. That's what I feel. But I'll talk about that later some other time. But what I still really want to emphasize is this. They rely heavily on one or two of those persons. And then those real smart persons who know how to get information, etc., here and there, they rely on other persons and connections as well. And this goes outside your round table boardroom as well. So the whole point is everybody within the chain need to be honest, have to be honest. And some situations have come up now over the past 5 years. Yeah, they've always been around, but I'm telling you, some people just got brave over the past 5 years, where in a sense, they really did usurp some authority from some of these persons that, again, really were relying on them, if not for their already ability to do the job, but from what they knew of their character of honesty. And now some of these ones have come to find out, oh, you really were drawn out in a way that really took you in a different ethical situation here, didn't you? See, they might say it nice because they realize there's some positions I told you can't even just throw the person out there like you wish you could. It'll still cause more harm than good if the person is still basically functioning. But at the same time, you can be assured now you got some of these higher ups that register that say, oh man, he or she really done lost their way in this area. So that's just a thought to think about. And so what I still want to emphasize when I talk about the statecraft, that's one mode of what has been happening, where it's like, man, even though you shouldn't have to be so thorough and to search through on everything, it's almost like, in a sense, if I can use the word, you need an internal what is it called in the police department? Internal revenue. What I'm talking about, revenue, but internal. You know what I'm talking about. I know what the word, the compound word is, whatever. But anyway, you know where they actually, it's a different department. And I bet you right now some peace officers, they all done rolled it off their tongue. Where if you look at some of my old podcasts, it used to roll off my tongue now. Is that old age coming up on me? Oh, I digress. Let me come back. Anyway, I didn't tell you. I do have a glass of wine, but I don't think that's affecting me. Now leave me alone. Okay, we're still, the whole point is that with all this work and things of that nature, that sometimes, people will say the buck stops here or what have you. But you know what? Even up there, if you don't have the right information, then you can't act, as Marissa would say. So you certainly, you people act, but it certainly don't mean you're acting again on the correct information. And that's how bad decisions and statescraft has its way, and a whirlwind of a storm makes situations worse. But all the same, what I still want to emphasize is that you can still respect their knowledge and their wisdom that such ones have shown over the years. And if the statecraft haven't gotten so bad, where now it's almost like, man, everything we got to do, we got to protect in this way, we got to search through in this way, we got to, verify in this way, that we didn't have to. That's why things change, because it can become a gridlock even in trying to verify everything that you need to make everything perfect, so to speak, or efficiency. And it's like, we just can't do it with the present system that we have in place. All because we have to now implement more types of security, etc. Things that, see, isn't that a shame? But that's what has happened. That's what has happened. It's the statecraft. It's the dishonesty of many of these persons using the, not the benevolent, but is it I'm slaughtering everything now. But the point is, the intention is not good. And some of these persons have found so many ways now to beat the system that would honor and honesty, truth, and justice, oh my goodness, I like to use the expression, would feed the world. It's the dishonesty that still is what really is affecting us in this way from getting things done. Some of the important stuff done. So, so anyway, thanks for listening to me. And don't be surprised if all of a sudden I may go look up a couple of these words, and just to come back and tell you, I knew what I was talking about. I might couldn't say the word, but I practice it, and then I come back and I'll say it correctly for you. All right. Have a wonderful day, Perceptive Reader.